So a bad Monday morning meeting, or like a normal Monday morning meeting, is everyone rocking up late, people come and go, and you're never really 100% clear of exactly what the outcome of the meeting was, why it was necessary, who's doing what, and you're a little bit clear on someone's weekends, but you were also annoyed because you wanted to get back to work and it just wasn't the time to talk about Jeremy's dog, you know? Now we're going to learn how to do sprint planning, which is a meeting to kick off a week's worth of work. What we do in sprint planning is we sit down as a team and we think about what is a chunk of work that's a real priority that we could actually get done this week. It's called sprint planning because over the rest of the week we're going to run to finish it. We're not planning the whole big project, we're just planning the quick race we're going to have this week to get our important stuff done. What we don't want is our Monday morning meetings to feel like a huge waste of time. What a demotivating start to the week. What we really want is to use these rituals so that every Monday morning we're getting super clear on what's getting done, everyone's agreed, and everyone can go very quickly into progressing their work. Talking about your weekends is really important. It's just not a part of sprint planning. It's part of having a chat. I think that it's super important. I actually really like having meetings that are really focused on the work so that I can have more time actually having a coffee with someone, actually hearing their hilarious story. The thing that people are most familiar about with Agile is usually a Kanban board. And this is a board, it can be physical, it can be virtual, with different columns for different tasks. Normally I'd put a Kanban board one of two places. If I'm working with a team in a room, I'll do it like this. However, if I'm working with a team remotely, we'll use something like Trello or some other tool that is basically like post-it notes on a wall. So you're going to have a backlog for the overall project, and then you're going to have a backlog for this sprint I just call to do this week. Your work in progress is what you're working on right now. So I usually like to create a testing column as well for people to go and get feedback, especially from your customers or your users, on whether what you're building is actually working for them. And then when you finish testing it, you'll either need to work on it a bit more, or you can move it straight to done. And every week we move tasks from backlog through to completion. Now we're going to work on sprint planning, which is the meeting we have at the beginning of the week to decide what we're going to do and who's going to do what. In our sprint planning meeting, we'll start off by making sure everyone's in the room and that everyone's paying attention. So we had a big list of all the projects we could do, then we've kind of scoped that, and then we're picking 1 week's worth of work. We're going to move this into the to do this week column. So everyone as a team is going to sit around and think about what's something we can make that we can actually test before the end of the week to see if we've finished this thing and it's useful for people. We're going to focus on something that is really important and something that we can test. So something that actually people can start using, like a buy button, so that we can get feedback and keep improving that over future sprints. So an example of this is we might decide that in this sprint this week, we're going to build out the page where we sell our coffee. That's cool because we can actually build the page in a week and we can test before the end of the week whether there's the things that a customer needs in order to buy the coffee. So we've guessed with our t-shirt sizes how big our different cards are going to be. Now we're going to take a guess at how many t-shirts we can get done this week. The idea of Agile is that we're going to get everything done by the end of the week that we say we'll do. Now the first couple of weeks are going to be a bit tricky because we don't know how fast we are and we're not actually that good at guessing how long things are going to take. So first week, really try and guess accurately how much do we think we could do in a week. And as you progress week on week, you should get much more accurate at those predictions. And at that point, we're going to pick who's going to work on which cards, right? So each card will have an owner. I'll write their name, we'll put a little smiley face of that person on the card, and then it's their job to move that card along through the week as they progress it. For each card, someone's got to be responsible for making sure it gets done. It's really easy in a project because it's teamwork to be not quite sure whether you're supposed to be doing something or someone else is, which is why it's super useful for each task to have one source of accountability. When it's really clear and it's written on the board that you need to do this by Friday, you'll find that work tends to move much faster. So this isn't about getting people in trouble, it's just about getting rid of the fuzziness or the grayness about, oh, was this person supposed to do that, or was I? So sprint planning is not about knowing all the detail about how something's going to get something done. It's just about knowing that every task has an owner and that they're going to get that done. So for example, in a sprint planning meeting, if we're agreeing that Jeremy is going to be building the buy now button for our coffee website, we're not going to start to talk about what color is the buy now button, where is it. We're just going to trust that Jeremy puts up his hand and says, I'm going to build the buy now button, and we say, go for it, Jeremy, get it done by Friday. Now, sometimes people feel a bit awkward or uncomfortable, which is why it's great to use this process to get people to put up their hand and put their name on that card and say, I promise, team, I will do this week. So you need to choose your big bets, the most important things. These might not be the most urgent things. These are the things that really need to be done. Now that might be, it's really important because it'll help you make money immediately. That might be, it's really important because it'll help you meet an important need or get feedback. Or that might be, it's really important because other things will build on it. Like for example, cleaning up your database is usually a super important first step. Spoiler alert, often your big bets will be the boring fundamental stuff first. Another really great thing to do can be to focus on your biggest guesses. Like what is an area where you don't know that much, where you're making heaps of assumptions? Why don't you start there so you can learn heaps on this early project? That's a great way to go to. If you try and work at a whole bunch of things at once, not only might you get confused, but your whole team might get confused. So if you can help your team stay really, really focused, they'll know if they're making progress and they'll know they're being successful, and their energies will all be coalescing around this one thing together. So there'll be more collaboration. When you've successfully done sprint planning, you're going to have a group of cards, related cards, in your backlog for that week. Each one of those cards will have an owner, and that owner will know what they have to do. So I should walk out of that meeting with a clear idea of what I'm working on, what needs to be done for me the end of this week, but also what everyone else is responsible for. If you're really experienced, you can probably do this really quickly, half hour on a phone call, get it done. If it's your first time, it might take a bit longer, but I don't want you to agonize over it. Just pick some stuff and get to work, because that's what Agile is about. I love this because it feels like every Monday I'm starting my week confident and actually impatient to get started and to see what everyone else gets done too. It's the opposite to like a Monday meeting that just drags on, where you hear heaps of irrelevant stuff and it doesn't like finish and you all get to work. And it's the opposite to feeling like you're working in a vacuum and no one even says hey or even cares what you're doing. It's the feeling, instead of being part of a team, we have a shared commitment of what we're working on and we are just going to crush it. You have to do sprint planning. You have to do it every single sprint.